What's up, Outlap F1 Nation? This is season 6. This is episode number 15 of the Outlap F1 podcast. And I'm only going to say this once. It's the Formula One MSC Cruises Gran Premio del Made in Italy del Emilia Romagna 2024 GP preview show. You've got Andy, and I'm along with my normal preview co-host, Cody, tonight. Thank you, sir, for the lovely applause there. It's been a couple days since we've seen each other. We did see each other a little bit over the weekend after I got back from Indy. But how you doing, sir? And what's up?
Doing really well. Gonna have pretty much a weekend to myself this weekend, which means I will be watching as many sessions of Emilia Romagna as I can. Also, this to me feels like a little bit of an appetizer before we do Monaco and Indy, which I love the Indy 500, so I'm really psyched for next week. But we'll get through this one first, and this is always a good race too. So really looking forward to it.
Yeah, next preview episode we'll do kind of an IndyCar recap where they kind of all are, who's hot, who's not. There's scandal afoot all over the place in that series. Lots to talk about. So we will get into all that in our next preview episode, which will be next week because these are coming at us thick and fast. But anyway, you want to know about the Imola GP is probably why you're here. So if you are here, welcome along, as David Croft would say. You can find our show, as always, Twitter, X, whatever they're calling that platform, Instagram, we're over there, Discord, Reddit, and of course YouTube. At Outlap F1 Podcast is the handle. If you like what you're looking at and you enjoy what you're hearing, if you want to smash the subscribe button, as they say on YouTube, or give us a like, we would be most appreciative of that. If you're on your favorite podcasting app, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube Music, you can give us a 5-star review on those platforms as well. Helps us come up a little bit better in search results. And helps us get our content to you that much quicker. You can email the show, chatnow@outlapf1.com. We'll take you there. Outlap F1 Nation, as just a reminder, thank you so much to our continued monetary supporters. We cannot do this without you guys. We love the fact that you continue to support us. Special shout outs to Dean Warwick, Yuri Dolchester, Paul Weaver, Quentin Warden, Kevin Kelly, Regan Stanzik, Timothy Brown, and of course, Jonathan Scott. If you'd like to become a member of what we call the hashtag Outlap F1 Nation and help us out, $5. We'll put our link in our show notes for all our episodes. We'll put it there. It's our anchor page. All of the money that we get goes into either updating equipment we already have or purchasing new equipment to help make the show better for you. Just as a final reminder, you can check out the good folks at Manscaped and get 20% off and free shipping with our code OUTLAP. That's OUTLAP, all one word. Well, now that the particulars are out of the way, we have a jam-packed show. There's a lot of news stories, some big stuff. People are talking. Things are happening all over the place. And none of it's been about Adrian Newey. So, hey, look at that. The first story in our agenda for tonight, Alex Albon, this broke this morning, re-ups with Williams on a multi-year deal. It's a multi-year deal that will have the Thai driver stay with Williams through the 2026 regulations. Albon showing faith in the Williams project as he was set to be a hot commodity on the driver market. So, Cody, thoughts on the move or the non-move here for Mr. Albon?
I think it's a good move for him, and I think it's probably the best he could have hoped for given this driver market, because if you look at the top 5 performing teams right now that we've kind of like sectioned off from the other 5 teams, Ferrari's accounted for, McLaren's accounted for, Aston Martin is practically accounted for, and he's probably not going back to Red Bull. So even if Sergio Perez loses that seat, I don't think it would be going to Alex Albon. He already had his tour at Red Bull, and even though he's come back and shown that he is the talented driver that we thought he was, I don't think that they would be making a second go of that. So the only one of the top 5 teams where he would really be, making a significant leap up in the equipment would be Mercedes. And there's, only one seat available there right now. It's highly contested over. And I just, even if he got that seat, it would have to be like a short-term thing because they really want to get Kimi Antonelli into that seat. It seems you've heard all kinds of talk about how Toto Wolff Doesn't want to make the same mistake with him that he apparently made with Verstappen by not having the seat available quickly enough. So they're going to be pushing for that. Worst case scenario, he's in the Williams seat for a couple seasons like George Russell was, and then he moves up to the Mercedes seat. So yeah, best Albon will be looking at there. It's just a couple years to tide over until Kimi Antonelli comes and takes over. He's got to be thinking that he's already got his feet planted at Williams. They've been rebuilding that team around him for a couple seasons now. He's shown that he is a really good driver there. And even though they're not performing super well at the moment, you have to say that they made leaps and bounds last year. And even with where they're at right now, I would say that they are way better than they were when George Russell was there. So I think, this is probably the best decision he could have made.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, I think I'm in agreement with you on this. I like the fact that he's showing faith in a long-term project. It's a project that obviously is going to take a few years. It very much kind of reminds me of the Lando Norris decision to stick with McLaren, even though at the time that deal was signed, McLaren didn't look very good. Right now, Williams probably doesn't look as good as it's going to be, but James Vowles is a realist. He knows what's going to take, what it's going to take to turn that thing around. It looks like he's put a lot of the foundations now in place to actually start to move the trajectory back up. They're going to do it what they think is the hard way. They're not going to try to cut corners in this, which is probably the right way to do it. It's probably the only way to really do it in the area of a cost cap, where you almost have to kind of go backwards to move forwards in certain ways, and you're sacrificing current year expectations for betterment of the future expectations. So if you can follow that through, and it may take 3-4 years for Williams to really come good, if the faith that Albon is showing in the team can get paid off, that's a major win-win across the board, because Williams really likes what they have in Albon ever since he came over. I've heard nothing but good things said about him, the way this car feedback, all that has always been very positive. So, and I think you're right. When you look at where else he could have gone, given even the merry-go-round, the only real viable top 5 seat is probably right now Mercedes. And that is got multiple suitors. You're probably now stuck behind potentially Carlos Sainz, potentially Kimi Antonelli, potentially Max Verstappen. I mean, you can go all over the place. I mean, you can go down this rabbit hole. That seat is not one that he can easily slide into. So I do think that, I think when you said it, this is probably the best for him right now. I tend to agree with that. So I'm surprised that this announcement came as early as it did, kind of in this year, given this merry-go-round of a silly season that we're about to go on. But it takes a name off the board. It takes some uncertainty for him off the board. It takes uncertainty for Williams off the board. They pretty much, I bet now, know where they're going to go. And if it's the second seat, they know what they have in their primary seat, and that's what they're going to roll with. So I do think it's a good move for Alex, and a good move by Williams, actually, to kind of get away from some of the drama, because it's still we haven't seen the crazy part of this yet. We still might. So, stand by on that one. But I think it's a good move across the board here. All right. So our next story, this came out today. Stefano Domenicali has been talking and opening some interesting doors in what he was saying. It was kind of to talk a little bit about the finalization, or the almost finalization, of the 2026 regulations. And then he sort of let it slip that, we're already really kind of sort of thinking about the 2030 regulations, which apparently, according to Domenicali, these 2026 regs don't have enough noise. And so he's kind of opened the door. So could you potentially see a V8 solution, powered, of course, by sustainable fuels? Could those engines potentially make a comeback in 2030? And it would be an effort to give the show, like I said, more air quote noise. Quote from Domenicali here: "It's a personal consideration of mine, not yet shared with the teams, even if we have spoken about it with the FIA, that if sustainable fuels work, we need to carefully evaluate whether to continue with the hybrid technology, or whether better solutions will be available." So, of course, that, rings very, very loudly. There was not a lot of detail necessarily behind it. He was speaking very much in terms of large, big picture. I can't imagine if you're a 2026 OEM who's investing all of this upfront money in this hybrid package that we haven't figured out if it's actually going to work yet, that you're going to abandon these engines after 4 years. That's a tough ask. However, I've been unabashedly saying I would love to see the return of a V8 normally aspirated engine with the appropriate noise, with that high-pitched scream. So part of me says, I really want this to happen. And another part of me says, but oh my God, who are you going to piss off in the process? But Cody, what's your thought here?
I think you can take it in a few different directions. On one hand, the whole reason they're running hybrid powertrains right now is because there was a big push to make the technology used in Formula One more pertinent to the cars that we drive on the road. And albeit it's a much more complicated version with the thermal recovery and everything like that, which they're now moving away from to simplify it. The whole simplification of the engines right now, it seems to have been to get more engine suppliers interested in Formula One and bringing in those other companies and bringing their interest to the sport. On the flip side of it, though, ultimately, Formula One is a sport. It's a show, and the show should be first and foremost because you need people to watch the show. That's how it works. And fans have been saying for a long time that the hybrid powertrains that they currently run sound less exciting, less interesting than the V8s or even V10s naturally aspirated that were used before. And you can make the whole argument that the hybrid powertrain is a push for sustainability and whatnot, but I think sustainable fuel sources would be covering that goal. They're already kind of using some sustainable fuel sources, and it's only 20 cars going around the track every couple of weeks. It's like, how much of an impact on the environment are you really making by having those hybrid powertrains when you won't optimize the calendar and you have all these jet planes flying over the planet here and there and ships and everything like that. That's where you're really going to make your environmental impact. So I see no issue with moving back to the naturally aspirated engines with sustainable fuel sources for the show, because I think that would be awesome. You're right, though. It's going to piss off all these engine suppliers that have invested all this research and money into making the new generation of hybrid powertrains, just for you to potentially say, oh yeah, we're only going to do that for 4 years. I mean, we've never had, I don't think, an engine regulation since they've become more regulated last that short amount of time. I mean, even the V8s went from 2006 to 2013. So that was pretty short, but still more than 4 years.
Yeah.
So I would think that they would have to make that investment worth it. So does it happen in 2030? I doubt it. I think they're going to want to see out the investment that they put in for a few more years beyond that. Could it happen maybe halfway through the decade, though? We'll have to see. I think it would be really cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's still yet to know whether or not this was just kind of a shot across the bow to kind of take the temperature of the room type of situation. Obviously, he's even said he hasn't spoken to any of the teams. We all know how much fun governance in Formula One tends to work. And when everybody starts to talk about their own little backyard, how everybody, even unified parties tend to get very disjointed very quickly. So we'll have to follow this. I mean, like I said, as a fan, as just a fan of the show, I would love to see some form of a simpler engine. My biggest critique of when they first went to the hybrids was that the engines were failing. They took too long to fix. They took, you had a very small problem lead to a big failure. You had cars not even being able to line up for certain races, especially back in that 2014 season. My God. and is also somebody who's gone through the pain of the McLaren Honda era the second time. I can tell you how much fun it was to see what happens when engines die and you can't even get anybody to get across 80% of a race. So you're running an engine at 80% power, but we don't have that anymore. So it's interesting. Like, okay, now we've actually solved a lot of the big issues with the hybrids, and now we're going to move away. Okay, I mean, like, that's fine. I mean, again, I'm fully on board with if they want to do that, but it just seems not to make sense with the trajectory of where everything else is going, given the popularity of the sport, given the fact that you've got butts in the seats everywhere you go. If you can make it work and everybody wants to sign off on it, I'm for it. But we'll follow it. We'll see kind of where this thing ends up going. But it was an interesting article. I wanted to share it because it broke this morning. I went, wow, there's a lot in here. Next topic. Speaking of the FIA and FOM and all of the governance in Formula One, apparently a peace agreement has been signed. I don't know if they actually went to Geneva, Switzerland to do this. I doubt it. But anyway, story also appeared this morning that says FOM and the FIA appear to have agreed on a cessation of their public hostilities between the two parties. Joint statement here, FOM and FIA have, quote, agreed to commit to a strategic plan for the future of F1. The FIA Formula One World Championship has never been so strong and is growing globally, and the FIA and Formula One are committed to delivering the best outcomes for the whole sport. To that end, both parties are developing a new strategic plan which will allow us to seize the opportunities and further enhance the potential for F1 in the years ahead. So I guess they're friends now?
Friends is a tenuous way to put it, I guess. Friends for now, trying to make it look like it's one big happy family, so that they don't lose what they've got, which is a good thing going right now with the booming popularity of Formula One. But like, what kind of changes do you expect to come out of them, like openly playing nicely?
I would imagine no more contradicting, countermanding each other, openly, or having like Mohammed Ben Sulayem say one thing and then Domenicali going, well, that's not what we're about.
So no more like FIA saying like, sure, Andretti can come.
Yeah.
And I'm being like, no, we don't agree to this, that kind of thing.
It could be. I mean, we're going to have a new Concord at some point, so everybody's going to kind of have to get on board with wherever the direction is that these guys want to take the sport. Where that leaves kind of Andretti is a very interesting question. The person who broke the story, Jenna Fryer, from the Associated Press, definitely addressed that in some of her tweets this morning and saying that she thinks that this really doesn't affect where kind of Andretti is because, FIA said yes, FOM is currently still saying no. There have been meetings in Miami. Michael was there. They were there throughout the entirety of the weekend. So it's not like they just showed up on Friday and left. So that makes me think, I wonder if those discussions were slightly more productive. I wonder if this was kind of the big contentious point of contention between the two. And now they're saying we're going to get over it. Maybe things are moving in the right direction. That's how I'm going to try to read it for now until I know different. Yeah. I want to be positive. Yeah, I know. I'm selling it. But yeah. I think a aligned FIA and FOM overall, regardless, is good for the sport.
I hope it just doesn't mean that FIA has, it going the other direction. FIA is now on board being like, you know what, we're okay with it just being 10 teams forever. That would be the other side of them agreeing, and that would be bad, in my opinion.
That would be very, very not good. And I would come out and say that is definitely a not good thing. So I'm rooting for the opposite, obviously. And I'm hoping that it means that the right people are talking to the right people now, and not communicating through staff members and cryptic tweets or, how we tend to passive aggressively communicate sometimes in this world that we live in now. But anyway, speaking of passive aggressive, so here's where I get to talk a little bit about the fun of sometimes being in F1 content and when you have to deal with certain things that are apparently just not true. We are a Chicago-based F1 podcast. Both Cody and I live in the Chicago area. We've all lived in here basically all our lives. When the story came out back in February that there was a rumor of a potential Chicago Grand Prix, needless to say, I got just a little bit excited. The fact that I could have F1 in my own backyard where I don't have to get on a plane, don't have to do any of that other stuff, and I can go to a race that means that I can concentrate on just paying for the dang ticket prices, get myself there. Yeah, I would totally be on board with that. However, in digging for that story, I found one thing to be pretty clear, that all of the sourcing seemed to go back to a single place. That single place happened again in early February, and then it kind of went away. And then that same place on Monday morning decided to say an agreement had been signed and everything was in place and it had all but announced. And apparently it was supposed to be a night race, and it was supposed to be, now we talked about when this story first flashed, all of the potential ideas of where you could actually host this thing. The articles that were being cited seemed to indicate that it was all going to be the race around the lakefront around the football stadium idea. Oh, by the way, the football stadium might be getting some upgrades in the future, and maybe there's a chance that you could do the Miami model, use the football stadium as the paddock and build around it. You'd have to build the track around it, kind of in the parking lot, and maybe you could make it work that way. That has been summarily debunked. Let me put it to you this way, because look, the situation regarding the football stadium, none of that has been signed. I can tell you that. There have been numerous articles about that. The Chicago football team has gone and made a proposal to try to get some additional state and government funding. None of that has been approved or has come through yet. There has not been a shovel turned in anger at either the lakefront, where they don't own, or the site out in the suburbs that they do own, which may end up being where they still end up building their stadium. There has been no announcement from the Chicago football team of any interest regarding an F1 race, because Miami, the Dolphins organization, owns the trademark and owns the rights to that race. They're the promoter of the Miami race. That has not been reported on or disclosed how that was going to work. I've seen no articles in our local media about how this would happen. And if something was involving the lakefront, there's a nonprofit that protects the interests of the green space that is our lakefront. They have not commented on anything regarding a Chicago F1 race or anything like that. So this thing is dead before it ever got anywhere. And it got so bad that that single source has since recanted the story. So unfortunately, I'm a little I'm angry that it's not happening, but I'm more pissed off that I'm getting played around with. Don't come messing in my backyard if you don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, when the blurb first came up a couple months ago, you and I both were like, "Man, that would be the shit. It would be so cool. It wouldn't even matter paying more money for tickets, because we wouldn't have to fly down to Austin. So you'd already be saving that money. You wouldn't have to stay in Austin in a hotel. You're saving that money too. We're all on board for it, but totally up in the air how it would happen. I think it was just they just registered a trademark for the name or something like that. That was all we heard. So, not really much to go off of there. Yes, you mentioned when we talked about this before too, just how many people in Chicago politics, which is very complicated and messy and gross, how many people in Chicago politics would need to be involved and on board with making this happen. And yeah, if that's not cranking along by this point, it definitely wouldn't be happening in a couple of years. And yeah, if they're coming out and saying that it's going to be a track based on the Chicago, it's going to be based on being around a stadium that doesn't even exist yet for the Chicago Bears, that might ever exist, because they seem to be fairly set on coming out to Arlington Heights. Yeah, you're kind of like, it's a pipe dream. You're saying, oh, it's based on this plan that isn't really based on fact or truth, or it's not like set in stone. So how can the race be set in stone in that way? It's definitely pretty kooky, and I too am disappointed that we're not going to have the Chicago Grand Prix at least anytime super soon. but we can still hold out hope for the future. Maybe they'll, maybe someday when the Miami Grand Prix, hopefully, if any of the three are going to fall off the calendar, I would hope it would be that one. Someday maybe they'll switch it out for another American Grand Prix, and then we can hope it'll be maybe, I don't know, in a NASCAR style fashion where they go racing around, some of the streets in the more downtown area instead of right on the lakefront. My vote would be for if they could somehow make it through museum campus. I mean, that would be the coolest thing to see on TV, but that probably wouldn't happen either. So it's all dreaming right now.
Yeah, I mean, it would look great. I mean, I would love to try to get into what a layout would look like what infrastructure would they want to put in, how would they go about, because it would all have to be kind of temporary. Are you going to put it up and take it down every year? We also have this lovely thing in Chicago where we get all the seasons all of the time at all points of the calendar. So, you're dealing with, just from a track surface perspective, this is not an easy place to host a race. You got to have some really interesting services. I mean, we've already talked about several times the fact that they tried something new when they went to Miami and it didn't work and the track was coming up. I could easily see stuff like that happening here. Not to mention you're dealing with Chicago politics, and if you don't have, you got to have so many things lined up to really do it within the city limits. You got to have the aldermen of where that race is going to be held agree to it, and the local community should hopefully be on board with something like that. We had, 6 different iterations of the Miami track because the locals didn't want to have it because they thought it was going to be too loud. You've got a lot of explaining and a lot of stuff that has to happen. You're not going to get all that. You could not possibly get all of that done in 2 years. And two, the other thing is, I still don't know who the organizing group, if there is one, is going to be. Is it the same developer that's into developing the Bears Stadium? I know who that entity is. I even know some of the people who are there. I've not heard any of that anywhere. This has got to be the most, if this source has something, like I said, they will have had to have scooped a lot of smart people. So again, it just kind of is a cautionary tale. Don't necessarily believe everything that you read. When we go to try to tweet something out, I try to double check it or triple check it before I send something like that out to know that what it is real. Because I woke up and I saw a lot. And look, I know that there's a natural pushback against the street course. But if it's a good one, it can be a great thing. So I'm not poo-pooing the idea. I would still love to have F1 come here. I don't want it to be sacrificing Austin. I don't want it to be sacrificing Las Vegas. If Miami wants to take a break, but I don't think they're going to do that, given what we're going to talk about in a little bit, given the now very popularity of the last race and the numbers that they got. So yeah, I think we're fine with the 3 that we have. I'm cool with rolling with it. But yeah, in the future, if they want to come and race in my backyard, I will more than happily come and enjoy the racing.
Hey, Formula One, if you ever want to make Road America an F1 quality circuit, I'll go to see that. That's still close enough to the backyard.
Yeah. I mean, I'm down with that. There's lots of interesting places. Road America would be a wonderful venue for it, but there would be a lot of infrastructure that they'd have to build up around that place because that's in the kind of in the middle of nowhere. That's the point. But anyway, moving on from this, Ferrari has announced that 2 former Mercedes staff will be joining the team in October ahead of Lewis Hamilton's move to the team in 2025. Tweet from their official account saying Scuderia Ferrari HP, I guess that's their official name now, is pleased to announce it is further strengthening the team with the arrival of Lukic, Serra, and Jerome D'Ambrosio. Serra had been with Mercedes for the past 18 years, so he was a very senior figure in that organization. And D'Ambrosio, who was overseeing the Mercedes Junior Academy and Driver Development Program, will now be taking over the Ferrari Academy and Young Driver Program there. So, yeah, Ferrari looks like they're making a nice little bed for when Lewis Hamilton decides to come on over next year. Thoughts on the moves?
Yeah, I guess it wasn't enough that they poached Lewis Hamilton. They're going to be poaching other staff too, and I think it's it's probably good for Ferrari. I mean, we know that Mercedes has been an extremely dominant team in the past, so they've got top notch personnel, and maybe some of those uh, members of the team are not super happy with where the team's at right now or its trajectory, and they're saying that maybe they can try out somewhere else. So it's exciting for them. I gotta wonder if Mercedes is getting really worried at this point that they're losing staff like this. It's we got one more year next year of these regulations, and then who knows? It turns around in 2026, and they're back at the top, and they've got all the good personnel again. But yeah, it doesn't really paint a great picture right now that they're losing more and more people.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a step in the positive momentum of what the Ferrari has done under Fred Vasseur's stewardship. You're definitely seeing them addressing the issues that they've had historically. It also came out this week. We didn't even put it in the document because we've got so much else in here. Charles Leclerc is getting a new race engineer. And so that happened, and that was a Vasseur move. And we've talked about many times about the Ferrari decision desk and the we are checking, and we all kind of make fun of it. Well, Fred Vasseur is addressing the problems. Like if he sees a problem, looks like he's addressing it. So it's definitely they are building a something. What that's actually going to look like when we get there, I don't yet know. But don't take your eye off the red cars, man, because they're not going anywhere. It doesn't look like it for the foreseeable future. Yeah, there may be a championship real contender coming on. Like there's a lot of positive. Like you could just see building amongst like some of these upper echelon teams where we could have some real fights. I mean, and that's the hope, is that we have some real fights, and that Ferrari or McLaren or even Aston Martin could take this fight to Red Bull and really kind of bring the fight to everybody. That's what we all want. So Ferrari doing the work to try to get that done, it sounds like.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Only two more stories, and then we will take a quick break. But focusing in on this weekend, the upgrades will be aplenty this weekend. Ferrari is set to bring a very large set. They were testing them during one of their filming days at their Fiorano track earlier this week, and the initial correlation seems to be pretty positive. At least that's what they're saying. But we'll find out over the course of this weekend for sure. Red Bull are set to bring a new set of updates as well. McLaren is finishing off their upgrade package from Miami and now giving Oscar Piastri the full package. That's already been reported. And Aston Martin are debuting what they call a Car 2.0 upgrade package as kind of their last shot to try to get back into the competitive order in 2024. So yeah, we this is kind of the new Spain. All the teams now bringing their full upgrade packages. What do you think we're going to see? Who's going to come out? Who's going to hit it? Who's going to miss it?
I do think it's really exciting. I really like the chance for the pecking order to be jumbled up maybe a little bit with everyone bringing upgrades and us seeing what works and what doesn't. I can't help but think it's a little frightening that Red Bull is one of the teams bringing upgrades this weekend, because they don't really seem to need them all that much right now. So if they're bringing upgrades, does it just end up moving the goalpost, and we just end up seeing them staying really far out in the front? But it is exciting to see McLaren having both cars with the upgrades. Piastri was doing well enough at the last race with the older version of the car, so we'll get to see what he's going to do with the upgraded version. Ferrari seems to be pretty fast since the beginning of the year as well. So maybe they get the upgrade package nailed just right, and it brings them a little closer to Red Bull. Anything that's going to bring Ferrari and McLaren closer to Red Bull right now is going to be good for us fans, because it's just going to make things more entertaining. Aston Martin probably has. I kind of understand why they've called this the 2.0 upgrade package, because we've seen that they've kind of fallen off of the competitive order a little bit compared to, say, this time last year. And they really are going to need like massive upgrades to bring them back up into that competing for podiums again. But all that said, I'm really looking forward to it, seeing what works. And yeah, hoping it just doesn't end up with Max finishing 25 seconds instead of 20 seconds up front.
Well, yeah,
Um,
that would be in McLaren speak suboptimal. I think across the board.
I did have one other point to ask you since we're talking about like testing things out. Did you see the images of Ferrari testing out the uh, the splash guards that would go with the wet tires?
Yes, I did. I did see the images. I did see some of the actual shots where they actually had a car right behind the other
Mm-hmm.
one to try to evaluate it. I saw two kind of different solutions of what they tried to do. One looks like it's just kind of like a wheel cover going
Yeah.
around about, like, if you look, the wheel is 360 degrees, I would say about 270 degrees. So it's really only the part of the tire that's exposed is the part that's touching the surface. That was one solution. I saw another one where it was more kind of like a serrated solution with like spokes, but
Mm-hmm.
also kind of still kind of going around. The initial solution of what I would call like the F1 version of mud flaps, they seem to be going away from that, where like it was just going to be this thing in the back. They thought that that was spraying to all directions as opposed to none of them, and that was not helping the situation. It was hurting it. So yeah, I mean, it's interesting to see. Like, I love the fact that they're at least doing it. I love the fact that the FIA is giving somebody the freedom to try to test this out. We have to have a solution for this.
Mm-hmm.
You can't really go racing in the rain unless you can kind of solve this. We know as of right now, the rain, the full wet tire, nobody wants to be on it. It
Mm-hmm.
sprays water all over the place. It's not very fast. Everybody wants to go on the inters. And this is a good weekend actually to try to see that, because when we get to the weather's going to be a part of this weekend. So, and sometimes we can have very wet European summers and rain. We've had years where rain just follows, the circuit around, or the tour around. So, yeah, I'm glad that they're trying to address it. It's a problem that they haven't addressed for a number of years. I want to see Pirelli get more involved in this, as
Mm-hmm.
opposed to just a solution that a team slaps on the car to see what the current tires do. I want to see some evolution in those actual tires, because I think it's a combination of both is how we're going to actually move it forward. All right, last story, and then we will take a quick break. Love it or hate it, Miami brought people to the show. I understand that sometimes the Miami GP can be a bit of a flashpoint, especially to all of our friends in Europe. But it brought the American audience, and you make it compelling, and Americans will show up. Check these numbers out. I never thought I would ever say this about an F1 race, regardless of where it is. 3.1 million people watched or tuned in on Sunday. That shatters the previous record of 2.6 million that watched the initial 2022 version of this same race. They got actually some really lucky. They were actually quite lucky that weekend, because the NASCAR race was rain delayed. So I think a lot of the people who were maybe going to watch the NASCAR had to flip around, found F1, saw somebody other than Max in the lead, and said, hey, let's see where this goes. And look what happened. Lando takes the win, and bumper crop of numbers here. So, and not to mention the attendance from the GP weekend itself appears to be up. They seem to be happy with what they did. I thought they toned the overall American version of everything down. We didn't have the orchestra. We didn't have anything extra in terms of extra timing or driver intros or any of that other stuff. I think that's where Las Vegas is going to take that mantle from here on out. So at least it looks like they've kind of listened as best they could, and the racing was actually pretty good. So, love it or hate it, Miami brought the goods. But Cody, what's your thought?
Yeah, I definitely thought that this was the best Miami Grand Prix that we've had so far in terms of the race. It definitely did help that we had a significant portion last 20 some laps where it really looked like Max wasn't going to win, and he didn't. So I'm sure that helped with the draw to watching it. I still, after what we saw from Las Vegas last year, I still would say this is my least favorite of the three United States races. But I do have a little more faith in it after this last one. I'm not someone who's super into all the crazy pomp and circumstance that it seems like America wants to try to bring around these races either. I mean, Las Vegas kind of makes sense. It's Las Vegas. It's pomp and circumstance is what they do. And when we do the United States race, there's a little bit. I don't know how much of it actually gets seen on TV, but we get like the Cowboys cheerleaders and like the local University of Texas marching band and stuff like that shows up. But yeah, I definitely agree with you that it seemed like a lot of that was toned back for the Miami race. It didn't seem quite as ridiculous. I definitely didn't see as many shots of the plastic water and stuff like that. So, but it did seem like it was kind of more centered on the racing itself. And since we ended up getting a good one, I think it really worked out for the viewers.
Yeah. So, I mean, hopefully they will continue kind of in that direction. I'm fine with taking your F1 show and putting some American flair into it. But I think what they did maybe in that second year was kind of overdone. I didn't even get back in time to see all of it. And I was just going through social media when I happened to get home for that 2023 race. And I was like, wow, I really can't believe they did all of this. But again, my other argument to that is that's what we do, and I'm fine with doing it in Las Vegas. So, I mean, if that's where they're gonna put it all in Las Vegas, fine. Let's do it there. I still think the racing soul is still in Austin. Of our three races, I would say Miami is kind of your showpiece. Austin is where the soul is, and Las Vegas is just kind of over the top. American kind of in your face with a hopefully good race afterwards. And that's fine. Like I said, you can go to each race and get a totally different experience. And that's cool. And we're a big enough country to support that. So anyway, we will leave that here. We haven't even talked about this weekend yet. Wow, look at that. So we're going to take a quick break. We're going to re-rack. We will come back. We will get into our track facts. We will talk about the weather, which is going to be a thing. And then we'll hop straight into our predictions game. Just see this filled out already. We've got some interesting stuff going on here. So we're definitely going to have a real winner. We're probably not going to tie this weekend. So you'll want to come back. We'll get into all that in just a little bit. So come on back. All right. Welcome back in. This is season 6, episode number 15 of the Outlap F1 podcast. I'm going to do this one more time and then never again. It's the Formula One MSC Cruises Gran Premio del Made in Italy del Emilia Romagna 2024 Grand Prix preview show. You've got Andy. And I'm along with Cody tonight. Now it's just becoming a thing. We're probably going to do this. Wait till we do the review show. Oh, wow. But anyway, we're going to now, we talked a lot about the news. We're going to get into the weekend proper. We're going to do our track facts, which are brought to us by the good folks at Pirelli Motorsport. So Cody, tell us about, here's another one, the Autodromo Internazionale Enzo Dino Ferrari.
Man, there's like nothing short about this Grand Prix. I'm going to go the shorter version, and I'm just going to say we're bringing you the Imola track facts as produced by Pirelli Motorsport. Yes, this weekend we are racing around the Autodromo Internazionale Enzo Dino Ferrari. Yeah, I can't believe it. Located in Imola, Italy. Number of laps around the circuit is 63, and length of the circuit is 4.909 kilometers. That's 3.050 miles. And the circuit consists of 19 turns. Tire selection from Pirelli for this race is the C3 for the hard, C4 for medium, and C5 compound for soft. And looking at the track characteristics from Pirelli here, it looks like this track pretty much falls right down the middle across most of the characteristics. So we're looking at a 2 out of 5 for traction, a 3 out of 5 for braking, 3 out of 5 for tire stress, 3 out of 5 for lateral load, 2 out of 5 for track evolution, 2 out of 5 for asphalt grip, 3 out of 5 for asphalt abrasion, and a 3 out of 5 for downforce. The qualifying and race lap records here were both set in 2020 when that Mercedes car was extremely dominant. So the qualifying lap record goes to Valtteri Bottas from 2020 with a 1 minute 13.609 seconds, while the race lap record for the circuit is a 1 minute 15.484 seconds, and that was done by Lewis Hamilton, also in 2020. Most wins around this track, and we're going to look back to when Imola was known as the San Marino Grand Prix to get some of these statistics. Most wins in Imola goes to Michael Schumacher with a whopping 7 wins around Imola. Second place, quite a bit further back, is a tie between Prost and Senna with 3 wins apiece here. And then in third place, another tie between a bunch of greats from a pretty good spread of time here. Looking at 2 wins each from Nigel Mansell. I'm going to guess not Graham Hill. Probably Damon Hill, yeah. So Mansell, Damon Hill, and Max Verstappen with 2 wins apiece. And then the most constructor wins here is a tie between Ferrari and Williams with 8 apiece. So pretty big numbers here. Second place, McLaren, still really good with 6 wins, and then Red Bull in third with only 2. What's the circuit like, Andy?
All right, it is a thrill ride. After testing his AlphaTauri AT01 at the track in the build-up to the 2020 season, Pierre Gasly called the experience one of the best he'd ever had in a Formula One car. While his teammate at the time, Daniel Kvyat, remarked that an F1 car through corners like Aqua Minerale, the entrance is so fast, it's so cool, it really gives you a lot of adrenaline. The anti-clockwise circuit is certainly fast with an old-school feel as the drivers put on the line in iconic corners like the aforementioned Aqua Minerale and the Pirotella. All right, as for the weather, and we could see a lot of weather potentially having an impact on this weekend. Saturday, however, looks to be beautiful. Plentiful sunshine, a high near 78, winds out of the north-northwest, with winds shifting to east-northeast, so potentially watch the wind direction at 10 to 15 miles per hour. For Sunday, we could see some serious weather moving into the area. Rain showers in the morning with numerous potential thunderstorms developing in the afternoon. Gusty winds and even small hail are possible. High of 71, winds out of the east at 5 to 10, a 60% chance of rain. I think that's our high water mark for the year thus far. So we could see red flags, we could see delays. Set your race starts kind of at the normal time, but work in some flexibility into your Sunday morning schedule, I think, is the takeaway there.
Yeah, we're kind of flirting with that uncomfortable point in the weather where you're moving away from an exciting, unpredictable race and moving into, like, is this going to happen? Is it going to happen when I'm expecting it to happen? That's when I start to get a little nervous, but hopefully it just ends up being a banger.
Yep, I'm hoping that they get all the sessions in. We get all the sessions in on time. We don't have any. We don't need a repeat of Spa 2021. We really don't.
We also don't need a repeat of Emilia Romagna 2023.
Right, which never happened, and that's part of the problem. Is the river's right there. They can't do anything. There's a river there. But anyway, yeah. I mean, at least we're definitely going to get the weekend started. It's a traditional weekend, so not a sprint weekend. The question is, what does Sunday bring and when does it bring it? So, like I said, keep your schedules, work in some flexibility with a little bit. Don't be one of those, I got to be done by 10 a.m. local time in here in the U.S. type people. It may bleed into a little bit, but and I will do my best to kind of keep our rule books, and as decisions are made, we'll do our best to kind of bring them to you as we hear them. All right, so we are now going to move into our predictions for the weekend. It's our Choose Your Champion predictions game, and we will start, as we are apt to do, with the pole sitter. The 2022 version of this race, as Cody mentioned, we did not have a 2023 version of this race, so all of our stats are based on the 22 running. That was Max Verstappen. We've kind of renamed this award renamed this the Max Verstappen deal, pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much.
I'll go first here. As much as I want to see a challenge to this order, and as much as I'm emboldened by the result of the last race, I can't quite make myself able to do it yet. I have to see it happen in qualifying. So Max Verstappen I have on the pole. Cody, what you got here?
Yeah, Max didn't win the race last time out, but he did get pole, and that makes every pole so far this season. So, yes, until it doesn't happen, I'm going to keep selecting Max Verstappen as the pole sitter.
All right, very good. And of course, that maybe the outlap F1 jinx will finally happen, and we won't see that, but we'll see. All right, so our qualifying pole lap time from 2022 in very wet conditions, as I recall, was a 127.999. So this is kind of a shot in the dark. We haven't had dry running in qualifying at Imola, I think, since it's come back to the calendar. So I'm going to go with a 113.958. And Cody, what you got for a lap time?
I did go back and reference the 2021 qualifying times, even though it's a different regulation for Aero, to try to get a feel for where the dry times might be. I'm going to go a little slower than you, about half second. So I'm going to do 1 minute, 14.446 seconds.
All right, very good. And all right, so we will now move into our race podium. And our 2022 version of this race saw Max Verstappen take the win, followed by Sergio Perez, and a late spin by one Charles Leclerc promoted Lando Norris up to the podium. So he came in P3 in 2022. So Cody, what do you have for the race podium?
I got crazy cats lapping around the house at the moment. I got Max Verstappen returning to winning ways. I do think, though, that Lando Norris is going to carry that success, confidence, and good car upgrades apparently to this weekend. So I got Lando Norris coming in second, and then Charles Leclerc finishing up the podium.
All right, very good. I'm in your same vein, but a slightly different. I do have Max Verstappen taking the win. I do think some things are inevitable. There's not a bollard here that I can see Max coming in contact with. Unfortunately, I do have some faith in these Ferrari upgrades. I do think that's going to certainly give them a bit of a boost here, particularly at home in front of a home crowd. It gives you those extra tenths of seconds. So I got Charles Leclerc coming in P2. I do also believe in the McLaren upgrades. I don't have enough to make him a race winner repeatedly yet, although I do think now it could possibly happen almost any time. So as a fan, I'm excited, but I can't predict it yet. Lando Norris to come in, however, in P3 in a very tightly, hopefully contested podium, P1 to P3. All right, so our fastest lap and the driver. The 2022 version was a Max Verstappen fastest lap in drying conditions, as I recall. So that is a 118.446. So Cody, what you got here for fastest lap, and who do you have making it?
I'm going a little bit off the deep end with this one, maybe, but I'm going to go with Fernando Alonso setting the fastest lap. Hopefully those Aston Martin upgrades are for real. And I got him doing it with a 1 minute, 18.135 seconds.
All right, very good. I am actually going a little bit, not off the deep end, but I think it's logic, but makes sense. I think Oscar Piastri is probably going to set that other fastest lap because I have that funny feeling he may have the lonely race on Sunday, but I'm hoping it's still pretty good. I'm hoping he's definitely going to be in the points this time. 117.558 is my lap time there. All right, and for bonus picks, I've gone with the selection of P4, P5, and P6 because, hey, we may have some real changes to the competitive order. Let's see where we think this is going to shake out. I'll go first here. For P4, I've got the McLarens in P3 and in P4. I've got Oscar Piastri coming in there. P5, I think, will be Carlos Sainz. I do think McLaren is quicker than one of the Ferraris. I don't know that they're quicker than both of them. And P6, it just has a feeling of this is one of those Sergio Perez races where things happen to him. Mm-hmm. So I don't know that it's going to be anything that he's doing wrong. I don't see him doing a whole lot wrong this year, but I feel he's just not going to have it as much as Max does. So I got Sergio Perez coming in P6. Cody, what's your thought here?
So I've got the same three drivers as you here, but positions shifted around. I got a little bit more confident in Perez, especially with that Red Bull car underneath him. So I got Sergio Perez coming in P4. I got Piastri compared to you bumped down to P5. And then Carlos Sainz, I kind of have the same feelings about as you had for Perez, where I feel like maybe something's just going to happen this weekend. It's going to knock him out of the competitive order a little bit. And I've got him down in P6.
All right, very good. All right, and for our prop bet, since we saw that weather forecast, and since I really couldn't think of anything better, do we think we're going to see not just the inter tires, but the full wets, the blue tires? If we get a red flag, we know we're going to see them, so that's probably where this is going to come in. So one, do we think we're going to have a red flag? And two, do you think you're going to see the full wets at all on Sunday? I'm going to go out on a limb and say no. I think they will probably only do that if they have to, but I'm going to say no for the prop bet. But I think the preferred tire will be inters all the way, assuming it's going to be wet. Cody, what you got here?
I had to kind of hem and haw over this for a while because I figured, now, correct me if I'm wrong, but if they do a rolling start, it has to be on full wets, right?
If they do a standing start, it's got to be in full wets. If they do either start, I think it's either restart. I think it has to be on full wets. So, if it was stopped for rain.
So I figured that could be potential if they have to stop for rain, in which case I would, then they would need to do the full wets. Even if it doesn't stop for rain, though, it does sound like it's going to be pretty nasty weather, and we do have some people in the position like Williams where they really can't afford to wreck those chassis anymore. So I would say in such a situation where it gets really wet and they don't stop the race, that Williams might just decide we want to keep our cars in one piece through this one, and they might throw on the wets just to see if it, helps.
Yeah, you could also.
That's a long way of saying yes to the wets.
You could also see Haas try to do the same thing. They tend to try to, go for home run strategies on tires. That would be a very Haas thing to do for sure. All right. So, when and where to watch your F1 over the course of this weekend? Free practice one. We're back to a traditional, normal weekend. No sprints, no fun sessions other than the regular quali and the regular race this time. So, FP1 kicks off Friday, 7:30 a.m. Eastern. That is going to be on ESPNU. FP2 will kick off 11 a.m. Eastern. These are kind of your standard European times. That will also be on ESPNU. FP3 Saturday, 6:30 a.m. Eastern. Up with the chickens if you're so inclined. That is also that will move over to ESPN2. Qualifying 10 a.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Central for me. That's on ESPN2, and the race on Sunday 8:55 a.m. Eastern, 7:55 a.m. Central for us. That'll be on ESPN2 as well. All right. Well, I guess that's kind of the end of our rundown. Cody, any final thoughts as we head into the, I'm not going to say it again, the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix weekend?
Only something a little random as you're talking about how long the race name was. I was thinking it's too bad they don't call it the San Marino Grand Prix anymore. It's kind of a cool name. Maybe it's because it's not actually in San Marino, but it'd definitely be a lot easier to say. But yeah, really looking forward to the race this weekend. Almost kind of looking forward to it being early in the morning again, because it means this feels like the normal time when I'd be watching a race. It's in the morning and then it's over and get on with the rest of the day, I guess.
Yep, and we will be back to recap it all. Not exactly sure when. We have to nail that down a little bit. Yeah. It might be Sunday. It may be Monday. We may not get this out till early Tuesday morning. So stand by on all that. We're still trying to finalize some schedules. When you got three people that all have fun schedules and different social networks and all that fun stuff, we've got to do some juggling. So we're aware of it. We're going to try to get this the review up and recorded and into the can as soon as possible. And as soon as we have it, we will get it out to you, assuming I don't fall asleep again when I'm editing. In the chair as I'm editing like I did last time. But anyway, that may be just a comedic thing. But anyway, you'll see it when it comes out. We'll do our best to get it out as soon as we can. But again, for Cody, it's been Andy. This is always super fun to do. We will catch you on the other side of this race. If you can say it 3 times fast, I'll give you €1 for it. Anyway, we'll see you later on, and may all your laps be fast.